On November 9th, 2021, DC Comics released Superman, Son of Kal-El, a comic which made a revelatory decision regarding the character of John Kent, the son of the original Superman, Clark Kent, and Lois Lane.
Now, DC Comics has announced that its latest Superman will be bisexual. John Kent is the most recent superhero to come out, following versions of Captain America, Aquaman, and Batman's sidekick, Robin.
Superman has always been a character that both comic fans and the mainstream media has always kept a close eye on. Since his creation in 1938 by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, he has become one of the strongest representations of American values in modern fiction. Predictably, a backlash against DC's editorial decision has emerged, most prominently among comic pundits on social media sites like YouTube.
I feel like we're sending the wrong message. It's okay to support LGBTQ, all this stuff, but there's comes a time where you're like really force feeding it down people's throats.
This criticism follows an extensive critique of woke comics, which allegedly create characters with diversity for the sole purpose of receiving international media attention. Here we will look at some of the major arguments: whether queer characters in mainstream comics lower the value of comics over time, whether characters like John Kent serve as valid representation of the use of queer characters, and finally, whether it is necessary to represent queer characters in this context. The argument that these comics are hurting the bottom line of the comics industry is so untrue that it's contradictory. The first 5 issues of the very book that we're examining has sold out nationwide, and DC Comics is already planning a second printing. A direct parallel to this sale took place in 2012, when the first issue of Archie's pal Kevin Keller became the first comic in the company's over 90-year history to receive a second printing. Many opponents suggest that instead of Superman, queer individuals would prefer to have their own characters as opposed to LGBTQ analogs of already existing characters. However, many original queer characters already exist. Derek Scott and Ramsey Fawaz, authors of Introduction Queer About Comics, recognize the concepts in modern comics which have always provided diverse perspective. Whether it was the female empowerment themes of the Golden Age Wonder Woman comics or the outsider narratives found in X-Men. These comics always possess a concept of the societal other, even if those marginalizations were not representative of the ones that exist in real life. This is an interpretation that comes from Alexander Doty in his 1993 work, Making Things Perfectly Queer, Interpreting Mass Culture. Queer readings result from the recognition and articulation of the complex range of queerness that has been in popular culture texts and their audiences all along. This form of interpretation also exists within the Superman narrative. Superman is both a strange visitor from another planet and a protector of American values. This was intentionally written into the text by Siegel and Shuster, who are both immigrants and faced marginalization within American culture due to that fact. But why should we do this so often with queer characters? The LGBTQ struggle for a public identity has been a trendy topic for sure, but the push for this concept in mainstream comics comes from an existing mandate to use the media to create responsible representation from this point forward. Comic book-centric scholar Derek Parker Royale, editor of the Bloomsbury Comic Studies series, once stated, "For both the scholar and the teacher, comics can be an invaluable resource in exploring cultural diversity and how it has historically redefined our nation. It's evident how Superman has steered our public consciousness, and all those values are still intact in the form of Clark Kent, who remains a character in these modern stories. But the character of John Kent still serves the meaningful purpose of maintaining those interpretations while representing LGBTQ values as well. All these concepts come together to create a clear mandate for comic book publishers, creators, and fans alike. It is all our responsibility to use the comic media to represent the value of all identities, including queer ones. And while it's true that these concepts have been in abundance in recent years, it is simply because of the short period of time these LGBTQ identities have been public. Marginalized identities have always been a part of comics, and it is necessary to highlight the ones which need to be expressed to our current mainstream public, just as the original Superman did with the immigrant communities that he once advocated for. The message that we send to the world becomes abundantly clear that even despite a difference in sexuality, anyone can be Superman.